Welcome to Mishna study Masechet Terumot, Perek Aleph Mishnah Tet. If last Mishnah we spoke about no separating oil for crushed olives, over here we're going to discuss that you are allowed to separate oil for cured or pickled olives. Right? V'tormim, you are allowed to separate teruma shemen al zetim anichbashin v'yain al anavim la'asotan simukim. Right? You're allowed to go ahead and separate oil to cover olives that are being cured. Right? You're pickling olives. Okay. Right? That's olives for eating. And wine, you're allowed to separate for grapes. Right? Grapes that you're planning on going ahead and taking it and turning it into raisins. Okay. So it's a food. Right? So you're allowed to separate one food product for another food product. Now, you're going to ask, what about last Mishnah? Or better yet, before we get to last Mishnah, why are you allowed to do this? It's two separate products. So no, it's the same, right? It's coming from the same. It's grapes and wine. It's coming from the same thing, right? And over here, it's a benefit to the Kohen, right? The Kohen is benefiting. He's getting oil, olive oil instead of olives. He's getting wine instead of grapes. So because it's a benefit to the Kohen, you're allowed to go ahead and give him, this. If it was vice versa, we saw earlier that you're not allowed. You can't give olives to cover oil, right? Because that's no benefit to the Kohen. But oil to cover olives, that is allowed. What about in last Mishnah when we said if you had crushed olives, it wasn't allowed? Oh, that we pointed out, we mentioned earlier, Harambam mentions it in this Mishnah. That's because the olives in last Mishnah were something that wasn't in its finished state, right? It's davar shelo nigmar melachto. And we have a principle that in tormim davar shnigmera melachto, al davar shnigmera melachto, al davar shelo nigmera melachto. You can't go ahead and separate teruma as something that was in its final stage, a finished product, right, to cover something that was not. Mishtaram shemen al zetim la'achila, zetim al zetim la'achila, yaim al anavim la'achila, anavim al anavim la'achila. Right, so a person is separated, right, oil to cover olives, olives to cover olives, wine to cover grapes, or grapes to cover grapes. V'nimlach ledorchan. He changes his mind. He's thinking about it. He's pondering, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I want to go ahead and I want to crush these. Now, what do you do? You're turning it now into a non-finished state. He doesn't have to re-give, right? Because at the time when he did it, right, at the time when he separated the teruma, he had in mind that it was from something, right? And at the time that he separated, it was from something that was nigmera melachto, right? And we go according to that machshava, according to what he had in mind then. And that's the principle of our Mishnah, right? So as we mentioned, it needs to be from two finished products in its finished state, right? And if there's benefit to the Kohen, then it's okay, right? So grapes for grapes, of course, I suppose. Even wine for grapes is fine, right? If they're both in their finished state, because it's a benefit to the Kohen to give him wine instead of grapes.